Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the GeniusCast Season 3. This is episode number 5. Last week, we interviewed Jeb Yoshi. He's the developer of Five Nights at Wario's Return to the Factory 1 and 2, Five Nights at Yoshi's, and he's working on some other stuff, too. So if you guys haven't seen that episode yet, be sure to go and check that out. This week, this is something real special, y'all. We're talking to the one and only Dakota Wood, a.k.a. Syncaroonie, the man behind Five Nights at the Krusty Krab and Five Nights at the Chum Bucket. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Yourself?
I'm doing great. This is a really cool episode, man. You're one of those OG developers back in like that Fanath fan game golden age, because that was like the 2015 times when all these developers were pumping out these big fan games, and you were one of them. And I think Five Nights at the Chum Bucket is one of those games that everybody remembers. It's one of those games Markiplier played, and a lot of people remember those games. And you are currently making a sequel to Five Nights at the Chum Bucket, so it's become a lot more relevant now than it ever was. And so I'm excited for this conversation. You ready to dive in?
Yeah, we're ready. Let's get started.
All right, so as y'all all know, or for people that don't know, I do a post each week on my community tab on Twitter and in my Discord server. If you want to take part in that, you can join my Discord server. Be sure to subscribe to this channel and follow me on Twitter, and look out for the posts I make when I talk about the next guest, and you can drop your question in the replies to those posts, and I will ask them on the show. And as long as they are relevant and stuff, if they're like stupid joke questions or questions that aren't relevant, I probably won't ask them, but I usually ask most of all of them. But that's how you can take part if you'd like to take part in future episodes. So we're going to start off with the community tab, post questions as per usual. This first one is from Edward the Great 453. So he's got 4 questions here, so we'll go through each one of them. Mm-hmm. First one is, what gave you the idea to make a Spongebob FNAF game?
Oh, so this was actually Yummy Mash. So back in, I think it was really late 2014, I was like, I wanted to make a fan game, but I didn't really know what to make one about. And this was like before Candies had come out, and so no one was really making like standalone fan games that were building off of the original lore of the series. So I was just kind of like, I left the idea on the back burner until I was watching a Yummy Mash video. I think he was playing Treasure Island or Wario's or something, and he said that it would be cool if there was like a Spongebob fan game. So I made that.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't think Yummy Mash even uploads anymore. It's kind of sad, because he was.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything of his.
He was one of the original inspirations for me to make a YouTube channel, because it was him first, and I found Markiplier through him. And Markiplier was like the main inspiration for me, but it started with Yummy Mash, watching him play the old Slender games, and then
yeah, that was how I found him too.
And then Markiplier was recommended to me because Markiplier was also playing the Slender games. So yeah, that was a while ago, man. But that's interesting that Yummy Mash was that inspiration. So if not for him, do you think that those games would still exist?
Probably not. I probably would have found something else to make them about, but and we would have gotten something else. Maybe I would have done something a bit more, not based on an existing property, but like I don't think that they would be SpongeBob games without that like comment that he made.
That's super interesting. So maybe in an alternate universe, you'd be making like a different variation of a fan game. I don't know. What else do you think you would have made if it wasn't SpongeBob?
Oh God. I like to think that if it was an alternate universe, it would be some kind of Cartoon Network property.
Oh yeah, like Dexter's Laboratory.
Five Nights at Dexter's Laboratory.
That would be interesting. I kind of want to see that now.
I'm sure that
I'm sure everything exists in FNAF fan games. I'd be surprised if somebody hadn't made that.
Yeah, if it's not on Game Jolt, it'll be somewhere on Scratch. Like there's got to be something for everything at this point.
All right, this next one is from, it's also from Edward the Great. It's the second one, but the third installment of the series. Will there be any new characters, or will there be more mechanics?
See, here's the thing, right? I'm still in process of developing it, so everything is subject to change. And in terms of new characters, I have to say I'm not sure, because I'm actually debating whether or not I need to add any more characters. right now, and I've been playtesting it, and I've been giving it to a couple of close friends to playtest, and they're like, I'm really happy with the way the game is balanced at the moment, and I feel like adding more characters might ruin that. But at the same time, I have ideas for additional mechanics that I would like to implement with different characters, so I may have to not do that and save that for something else. And in terms of additional mechanics that are in the game, yeah, there are new mechanics to the series. Um, I don't know if they've never been done in like a fan game ever, but yeah, they're definitely new to my games. I would elaborate, but I do want to keep this stuff a little bit like. I think the gameplay is one of the things that kind of drew me to the series, like the Five Nights at Freddy's series as a whole, and that to me is something I want to kind of keep on the down low until the game comes out at least.
Gotcha. And I'm really interested to see what you do with the gameplay, because when it comes to FNAF fan games, for me, I value, like, because I think that the graphics are great. It's good for the game to look good visually, but I personally enjoy it when a game takes creative liberties with their mechanics and makes really fun and creative gameplay. That's why I love Five Nights at Wario's 4 probably the most out of any fan games, like that and Five Nights at Wario's 3. But Wario's 4 is so ingenious and unique with the television remote mechanic. So
That's right.
and that's what I value a lot in fan game, especially with me being kind of burned out from FNAF these days. A lot of people know that I'm pretty burned out with FNAF fan games, but it's always like refreshing for me to play a fan game and it has super unique and creative mechanics. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you do with it.
Yeah, I think 2015 was like, it was fine to just kind of like not rip off, but base the mechanics very closely on the source material, like the original Five Nights at Freddy's games. But I think these days you kind of have to do something a bit different, otherwise it just gets lost in the sea of, like you said, 22,000 results in Game Jolt.
Yeah, and probably about 21,900 of those are probably the same type of game. So
yeah, exactly. Then you get like a Wario's 3 or a Wario's 4, like that's just different.
Yeah, and I love it. I love it when they do that. All right, Edward's next question is, what is your favorite SpongeBob episode?
Oh, I actually don't know. This kind of leads. I probably will disappoint a few people with this comment, but I actually don't have any particular affinity for SpongeBob. Like, I only made the fan games about SpongeBob because of Yummy Mash and just because I didn't have any better ideas. Like, I grew up watching it occasionally. We never had like pay TV, and Nickelodeon was on what was called Ostar in Australia for a while. So I never had like ready access to watching it as a kid. But if I was gonna say a particular episode from what I remember, I mean, I like the Rock Bottom episode. I think that one's pretty good.
Yeah, whenever I hear about Rock Bottom, I'm always reminded of Battle for Bikini Bottom's Rock Bottom soundtrack, and like the music for that area is so good. And
I'll have to give it a listen.
Yeah, my the first time I heard it was when my friend, his name's Necrodusk, he made an RPG called The Legend of Markiplier. He's made like a series, and there's a particular area in one of the games where he uses the Rock Bottom soundtrack. And
okay.
But that's the first place that I heard it. But it's really good music, and yeah, just fun fact. But yeah, Rock Bottom episode. I haven't seen that one. I gotta go check that one out. And Edward's last question is, just for fun, could you rank the top 5 scariest characters from your current 2 games?
Oh, I'd say Squidward from Chum Bucket is probably the scariest. I really like his design. It's like in my opinion at least, I don't know if anyone else thinks this, but it's kind of that great blend of like, it still kind of looks like vaguely like the source material, but in a kind of twisted and creepy way. Second would probably be, I think Sandy, both from Chum Bucket, because that design is like, pretty. It's inspired by the Withered animatronics from FNAF 2, and it's just very like like mangled and like rotten, and I think that's pretty creepy. But also Sandy in Krusty Krab is utterly broken. So she just like bum rushes your door and just never leaves, which is not not ideal and a bit creepy. Third, I'd probably say Patrick in Chum Bucket. Fourth and fifth, I'm not really sure. I'd say probably. I don't actually. Do I have more than 5 characters? I think there's 7 in Chum Bucket. Probably 4 Mr. Krabs and 5 SpongeBob.
Yeah, I remember when I first saw SpongeBob, and I still gotta play more Chum Bucket. I've been meaning to get back to that, but when I first saw SpongeBob, I'm just thinking, man's been hitting the gym. I'm telling you, like he's like the Incredible Hulk, basically. And there was actually, I think later on, I don't know if it's in the community tab or somebody asked a question why SpongeBob is so ripped, so we can get to that.
I do have an answer for that too. So
great, I've been wondering that too. So. Alrighty, our next question is from SMG5. My question for the goober himself is, what made you switch styles from it being a scroll left and right regular FNAF 1 copy game in Five Nights at the Krusty Krab to being an Unreal Engine higher scale game in Five Nights at the Chum Bucket?
Well, so Five Nights at the Krusty Krab was actually also built in Unreal Engine, but I purposefully implemented it that way because I wanted it to be as close to Five Nights at Freddy's as possible. Like, not necessarily in cloning it completely, but I wanted it to feel like playing that. And I like Unreal Engine at the time was just it was more just a learning opportunity to learn that engine. But I ended up having a lot of problems with it. I believe if you go and watch like the Game Salmon's first video on Krusty Krab or someone like that, every time they look left and right, it's like instant snapping to the left and right, and you can never look in the middle. Because I'd forgotten to not tie it to the frame rate. So I decided to go with the free look because it was easier to implement in Chum Bucket, and it ended up being kind of one of the most iconic parts of that fan game in particular. Just people really like the free look. So yeah, that's the story behind it, really.
Interesting. Yeah, I like the way that it's more free look, because you don't see that in a lot of FNAF fan games, and it makes it more immersive to actually, look around, and you have to look at the door and click it to close it, and instead of just pressing a button. And I think the free look was a good choice. I'm glad you did that.
Absolutely.
Are you bringing that back in the new game?
To an extent. I've kept it a little bit, but I also, without giving too much away, looking around, like you can just use the mouse to just kind of like pan the camera, but looking drastically in a different direction, like for example behind you, there is a button to do that.
Oh, okay. So it'll be like mostly like Chum Bucket, but with a few changes then.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a combination of Chum Bucket and trying to think of a fan game that does it. It's a combination of Chum Bucket and like One Night at Flumpty's 3.
Oh, okay. Oh, that'll be cool. I like the way that Flumpty's 3 did it. So that mixing that with the free look of Chum Bucket will be interesting. I'm interested in that. That sounds cool.
It was one of the first things I spent like a decent amount of time trying to get right, and I've made a couple of tweaks. I got my girlfriend to play it, and she suggested that I add keyboard shortcuts to look at different places, and I added that, and now I just use that. I don't even click the buttons. So it's been a fair amount of work making it feel really good, and that's, I'm really happy with how it's turning out.
Well, that's great. That's making me pretty excited. I'm interested to see how that turns out. That sounds really cool. All right, this next one is from Black Antonia. Do you plan on updating Five Nights at the Krusty Krab with bug fixes and fix the Sandy glitch after you're finished with the 3rd game? By the way, I love your hard work. Keep it up.
Thank you. The wording of this question makes it a bit like the answer is no, because I can't update it because I don't have the files for those games anymore. They were on a hard drive that has died.
Oh, man.
And probably died about 7 years ago. And I think I just threw it in the bin because I just didn't care about anything that was on it at the time. So to answer your question, no, I can't update the game. I'm sorry, but I think I have seen a couple of other people talk about remaking it. That is something that I've thought about, but I haven't. I don't want to confirm or deny whether or not I will do that.
I was literally just about to ask, like, have you thought about
Yeah.
maybe remaking the first one? So
Yeah, part of the reason that I decided to end up making a third one is I wasn't happy with the only thing. Like, well, the most popular thing I've made was those first two fan games, and I look back on them now and I cringe just because they're so like poorly made in my opinion. Like they're really buggy. You know, I saw like a 720 playthrough of Chum Bucket pop up in like the past couple of months, and like the first thing he does is like break the flashlight, so it just breaks the entire game. So I think those games would really benefit from being remade with my modern design sensibilities and like a little bit of like gameplay fine tuning. But again, I don't want to confirm or deny whether or not I will do that, but I'd like to.
all right, gotcha. And well, you know, I'll hop on them if you make them. That would be interesting because I have like one video of Fanath at the Krusty Krab on my channel. That was back in 2015. It's a very, very old video. That was back when I used to put like weird looking eyes and stuff on my faces and my thumbnails. And like I distinctly remember the thumbnail of that video having that. Where like I think I titled it something like Sandy loves Bud or something. And like it was, and I put like heart eyes or something. That was a very weird time on my channel where I thought that putting funny eyes and stuff on the thumbnails made them look better or something, which it didn't. It made them look obnoxious. But yeah, I'd be interested in playing through a remastered Krusty Krab if you ever do that.
Look, I feel like a lot of people would be really into that. But yeah, it's again, it's a do I have the time to do it and do I have the energy to do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So only do it if you really want to. You know, don't feel pressured to that you have to do it or anything.
Oh no, of course.
All right, next one is from Goliath. What made you decide to resume the sequel to the Chum Bucket, and how do you plan on making it stand out going forward?
So the sequel, it was kind of a perfect storm of stuff happening at the start of this year. So, fun fact, I actually tried to start making it about 2 years ago. I sat down one day and was like, man, I really just want to make this. Just for, I don't even remember the reason. It was just kind of out of the blue. But I ended up getting about halfway through developing the mechanics and then realizing that the design wasn't fun and just kind of lost steam with the project and just ended up scrapping it. And I don't even think I have the files for it anymore. I just considered it a failure and just cleared it off. The start of this year, or I guess like the end of last year was when I would have started thinking about it because Security Breach came out and I watched Markiplier play that and then I saw so many people being like, you know, coming out like because like the past 5 years has just been like I've just seen FNAF stuff like in the peripheries of my vision and just being like, you know, it's there, it's cool. I'm glad people still enjoy it, but it's like, you know, it felt like it was on a bit of a downward trend ever since Pizzeria Simulator, I think it was, came out. And by downward trend, I mean like in popularity, not in like quality or anything like that. But then Security Breach came out, and then, you know, whether you like that game or not, it's kind of like irrelevant to the point, but everyone's talking about it again. And like, you know, whenever I'm like looking at TikTok or something, like every second video is like superstar Freddy memes, things like that. And I'm like, it was a combination of that and feeling a little burnt out on what I was working on at the time. And I think I just went and like looked at the comments on Game Jolt and was like, man, I just really want to do this again.
Hey, that's fair. You know, sometimes the motivation will just come just out of the blue. I've had that before. Like I remember, just when I came back to, I took a long break from YouTube back later in 2021, and I remember just randomly getting the motivation back to to come back. So sometimes it'll just hit you out of nowhere. But I think a lot of people are happy that it hit you because, you know, you coming back after so long is just smacked a lot of people in the face, really, because it was so unexpected. Because I think out of nowhere you just posted that teaser for the new game, and then people were like, "Oh my God, he's back!" It's been like 7 years, and then, but
7 years exactly. I posted that teaser the same day that I don't know if it was the same day that Krusty Krab came out, or whether I created the Game Jolt page, but it was like 7 years to that day.
That's awesome. I didn't even know that. But yeah, that's exciting. So, all right, this next one is from Wily Dog. What was your favorite memory when it comes to making Five Nights at the Krusty Krab or Five Nights at the Chum Bucket?
I'm not actually sure. I think it was a really long time ago, and so I'm kind of struggling to like remember. But it was probably something to do with Squidward. Like I really liked his mechanic, even though it was a bit of a copy of the Flunky's owl. But I really liked how that ended up working out. I like that his jump scare is like him jumping out of the vent. That's really cool. So I think probably animating that jump scare was one of them. But that's just because my memories of making those games are quite hazy because it's been 7 years. So there's only snippets that I remember, and I just remember animating that, and that was really cool.
Yeah, I think Squidward jumping down to jump scare you is really good attention to detail. You don't usually see stuff like that when it comes to FNAF fan games. That's another little... I like little attention to details like that, where like people just take the time to put little things that don't need to be there, but you put it in there anyway, which I respect a lot. And so I really like, you know, attention to detail is everything. You know, details are important, and even if it's just a small thing, it adds to the overall experience.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
All right, our next one is from Shadow Jagger. He's got 2 questions. The first one is, do you have plans for future games that are or aren't FNAF related?
Absolutely. I love making games, and I will do this until I die. So yes, I do have ideas for things that I want to work on in future, and things I want to continue working on after I finish this this project. So yeah, definitely. In terms of FNAF related, again, I'd like to remake the first 2 games at some point, but that may or may not happen. It just depends on how I feel like it. Whether or not I feel like it, sorry.
All right, gotcha. And his second question is, what is your favorite show/cartoon or movie as of now?
Oh, I find it really hard to stick on one thing at the moment, but one thing just in general. But I'm rewatching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure with my partner, so I think probably that at the moment. I just really like it.
All right, our next one is from Lexus. He's got 4 questions. But yeah, we got a lot of questions today. I'm happy about that.
Oh, yeah.
Adds to the hearty podcast length. Okay, so he asks, what are your future plans? Like, will you make more FNAF related fan games or now original products? This is kind of like one of the previous questions, so I guess just the same kind of answers.
Yeah, it's the same answer. It's I'd like to make some more stuff related to this series, but I don't know if I will, and I definitely will make other things. So yeah, definitely going to see more from me in the future.
Sweet. All right, his next question is, what was your opinion on the Fazbear Fanverse initiative after Scott revealed it?
I think it's really cool. Like, I think my first impression was, oh man, it'd be cool to get an email, but that's never going to happen because obviously there's a lot of copyright infringement going on with my games. But like, I've since heard that it's been a bit of a mess, just in terms of organizational stuff, and you know, I really hope that stuff gets ironed out because it's a really cool idea, and like, you don't often see, I hesitate to use the word company, but you don't often see companies like reaching out to like fan creators and getting them involved, like especially in this capacity where they're doing officially licensed ports of fan games. The closest we really see in any other property is like Sonic fan games have like a competition every year, and that's about it. But then you have like Nintendo, that, you know, the Nintendo ninjas coming through and like canceling everything that ever gets to see the light of day. And the fact that Scott and I don't know who else is involved in setting up the Fanverse initiative. I think it's just Click Team. The fact that they're all, willing to do this is a really, really cool thing. And I really hope that the communication issues and stuff that's been kind of brought up by certain people in the community kind of get ironed out moving forward, just because, it'd be really cool to have it, work well.
Right. And, you bringing up the copyright thing, there were a lot of people that were wondering if, like, say, Mallrat / Photo Negative Mickey's Five Nights at Max Tonight games would be part of it, or Five Nights at Wario's, or, the Jollibees games. And, you can't do that because it's copyrighted.
Yeah.
It's got to be original, or original characters at least.
Yeah, or original, or just like using only Scott's intellectual property, because obviously like FNAF Plus is all. Well, I mean FNAF Plus at this point is starting to look like its own original thing. So
yeah, and then Joy Creations, the original FNAF character as well. So, and that leads into Lexus's next question: which of the fan games on the Fazbear Fanverse initiative are you most excited for to play?
There's actually two, because I haven't played it yet. I'm really keen to check out One Night at Flumpty's 3. I've seen people play it, but I haven't had a chance to play it myself. And I was a big fan of the second one, so yeah, really excited to give that a try. And also FNAF Plus. Just I really like the direction that it's being taken. It's really like it's a real like passionate reimagining of the original FNAF, and like without all of the kind of like science fiction elements that started coming into the series later, which I think can be cool in their own right, but it's really like doubling down on that paranormal investigator kind of stuff, which is super cool.
Oh yeah, for sure, I love that. And then his next one, if you had a choice to make a fan game that had no copyrighted characters in it, which would it be, and why do you think it would deserve to be on it? I think he's also talking about Fanverse.
Oh, the Fanverse?
Yeah.
I'm not sure quite what they mean by which would it be. If I was making something without copyrighted characters, it probably wouldn't be based on an existing property. That, or it would be, now that there's more of a precedent for things that are extending the lore of FNAF as opposed to trying to be their own thing based on existing copyrighted properties. I'd probably do something original, like with all new characters, or some kind of more FNAF related thing.
All right, gotcha. His next one is: would you be okay if people made a Friday Night Funkin' mod about your fan game with credit, of course?
Totally, that's totally fine.
Dude, Friday Night Funkin' is like taking the internet by storm. Like I have yet to play it, but like there's just mods of everything of Friday Night Funkin'. It's crazy. I mean, I see mods of Poppy Playtime. I see mods of Around the Clock at Bikini Bottom. It's just very, people will make mods of anything in that game. So
my favorite one is it's the mod where Markiplier says, "Was that the bite of '87?" And it's
that,
just him.
I have not heard of that one.
Favorite. Just look it up after this. It's just like Markiplier bite of '87 Friday Night Funkin'. It's so good.
I am definitely going to look that up. That sounds amazing. That might get me into Friday Night Funkin' because I've never actually played it, but I'm going to see if I can get into it. And that might be what gets me into it. So we'll have to see. All right, his next one is, since when did you decide to make a FNAF fan game? Was it Yummy Mash that inspired you to make FNAF fan game in general, or was that just the Spongebob inspiration?
That's just the Spongebob inspiration. I wanted to do it. I think it was probably Wario's, because I think Treasure Island came out, and I was like, well, that's really cool that it exists, and it's it's cool that people are making like someone has made a fan game of Five Nights at Freddy's, and then Wario's came out, and it was like, oh, okay, cool, this might actually sorry, I'm wording this weirdly. It's like you could. It was that point that it kind of became clear to me that like anyone could do this, and it wasn't just like it wasn't a one-off thing that happened, right? And I thought at that point I was like, oh, it would be really cool to like recreate some of the mechanics, because I think like for me personally, the mechanics and the gameplay is always the thing that like attracted me to the series the most.
Gotcha. Okay. And his last one is, how did you get the idea for these two fan games? I assume that's where the SpongeBob idea from Yummy Mash came, right?
Yeah, that was from Yummy Mash.
Okay, well, there you go, Alexis. That's the answer to that. All right, our next one's from Microphone. Do you have any plans that you want to bring back that you mentioned in your commentary video about Five Nights at Rock Bottom?
A lot of them. Short answer, a lot of them. Long answer, I think the only thing that I've changed really is like some of the story. If I mentioned any gameplay mechanics in there, I probably want to bring them back. One thing I'm not bringing back is I remember I showed there was like a model I made of like a barbed wire Squidward who was like red and covered in blood and barbed wire and nails and stuff. And while I think that's a really cool design, I didn't really want to reuse it. I couldn't think of a way to put it in. So there's not going to be anything like that. But if you're thinking of like story and mechanics, that stuff probably will get reused. Or at least reused in some form.
All right, gotcha. All right, our next questions are from DenDenX3. He says he has 3, but I don't know if they can all be answered, and one of them is from his brother. So his first one is, why is Five Nights at Rock Bottom now in 2022? I guess that was going to be another question later on. I think somebody was going to ask if you were actually going to call this new one Five Nights at Rock Bottom, or if you were going to go with a different name. But I guess he's just asking, why is this new one, just now in 2022? And I think you explained that earlier.
Yeah, just because I felt like there were a bunch of things that were kind of like, motivated me to give it another go.
Right. And then his next one is, was there any unused content while making Chum Bucket?
I don't think so, actually. I think Chum Bucket and Krusty Krab are pretty much exactly how I envisioned them. Like, I didn't make anything that didn't make the cut. I think I actually, with Chum Bucket, I kind of did the opposite, where I got to a point where I was like, I don't want to add any more content, but I also have more plans, and that's why Karen is just a texture swap of Sandy.
Okay. Gotcha. That's understandable. And his last question is, was Plankton ever in the Krusty Krab or Chum Bucket, or will he be in the new game?
Plankton was not in the Krusty Krab or the Chum Bucket, but and again, this goes back to the, will I add any new characters to the new games? Maybe. I'm still up in the air about whether or not I want to add any new characters, and one of the characters on the shortlist may or may not be Plankton.
Okay. All right. What a sad to see. All right. Our next one is from Chaos Kohler 77. Which game was the most fun to make?
Out of the first two, probably Chum Bucket. Krusty Krab is a nightmare now that I look back on it. It was probably fine to make, but I can't imagine I had a lot of fun now that I've like gone back and looked at my old like AI graphs and things like that. That game is a tangle mess, right? Like, I can't imagine that I didn't look like Charlie Day standing in front of the corkboard with all the red string at the end of it, just because of how messy it was. But I think out of the past two, Chum Bucket probably, but I've had more fun making Rock Bottom now than I did with either of those two. So Rock Bottom is probably the one I've had the most fun with.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, our next one is from Hextravagant. I think that's Travagant. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. I probably butchered that. Hextravagant. Yep. Okay.
They're like extravagant, but with
H. Yes, thank you. All right. He asks, what is your favorite character design in Five Nights at the Chum Bucket? Was that Squidward? I think you said that was your favorite, right?
I said Squidward was the scariest, but he's also my favorite.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. This next one is from Razban, and he said just call him Razban. He has a long name, but I remember him saying just call him Razban, so we'll go with that, Razban. What is your favorite character design? Okay, we just answered that. It's Squidward, like you just said.
Can I also say that Squidward is my favorite character design in the new game as well?
Oh, cool. Okay. I'm interested to see. All right, next one is from G1 Rodimus Fangirl. What made you decide to make Fanath Krusty Krab and Fanath Chum Bucket to begin with? Was that that was Yummy
Yummy
Mash.
Mash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I realize that a lot of these questions, understandably, are similar, but yeah.
That's totally fine. Like, I'm sure your entire audience didn't get together and plan out what they were gonna ask.
Yeah, and I mean, like, and it's understandable questions. You know, people are just wondering,
Yeah.
like, you know, what inspired it, you know, because a lot of people wonder that. You know, you see all these interesting, unique ideas come out, and you're wondering, well, how did they come up with that? Like, what did they first decide? I want to do it like this. So, all right, our next questions are from Adriana Konska. They've got 3 questions. Will Five Nights at the Krusty Krab be remade by the Radiance team? Which I think you have. Are you aware of who the Radiance team is?
I believe so. Are they the guys who did The Return of Freddy's 2? Or is that Luminous team? I know there's 2.
Probably Luminous. Radiance did the Five Nights at Treasure Island 2020 game, and they also helped remake Five Nights at Thomas's, and I think they did a couple other projects too. But the 2020 Five Nights at Treasure Island, that was who made that.
I believe I've seen gameplay of that because I haven't kept up to date on fan games very much over the past couple of years. But I think I found them because I was on the wiki for my game, just like looking at comments and stuff. And I think the Squidward page has like in like the trivia section, it's like Squidward makes an appearance in Five Nights at Treasure Island 2020, and I'm like, really? So I went and looked that up. That's really cool, and I'm really like. It's super cool that someone actually referenced that, because obviously, like, I made references to a couple of other fan games in that game, and it's cool. It's super cool to see people making reference to like my Squidward design moving forward and stuff like that. But to answer the question, I would prefer to remake them myself if I was going to remake them. I would, or I don't want to say that. No. I was going to say I would consider working with people, but I think I would probably prefer to just do them myself if I'm going to do them at all.
Yeah, that's understandable. And the thing is, like, the reason they ask that is because Radiance is very well known for getting with the original developers and like remaking like old fan games. Like they got with Jay Fun, who made Five Nights at Thomas's. They got with him and worked with him to remake that. Yeah, and the other one I was thinking of was they helped remake Five Nights at Chuck E. Cheese too. I think they got with the original developer of that.
Okay.
So. But yeah, they're pretty infamous for remaking old fan games. So I guess that's why they're asking that. And their next one was let's see. All right, the next question is why is SpongeBob so buff in Fanath the Chum Bucket? Here we go. This is what I've been wondering too.
Okay, so when I started working on I nearly said Rock Bottom, Chum Bucket, I believe I started making the office and like the first story of that map. 1 week before I don't remember what the movie is even called, but it's the SpongeBob movie where they're all superheroes. And I remember seeing, like, I have not seen that movie, but I remember seeing the poster and seeing SpongeBob, and he's like jacked. So I made that. He's based on the SpongeBob design from that movie.
I think it's called the Sponge Out of the Water, maybe?
Sponge Out of Water, something like that.
I think it's something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what inspired it. Interesting.
Yes, absolutely.
I did not know that. Interesting. So, and then the last question is, what happened to Five Nights at Rock Bottom? So I guess they're asking, like, why was it canceled originally?
I've thought at length about how to answer this question. Because if you had asked me this question like 7 years ago, I probably would have given 6 years ago, I probably would have given like a very angsty teen response of, I just don't like Five Nights at Freddy's anymore. But realistically, the answer to that question is I was probably only about 16 when I made Chum Bucket and started making Rock Bottom. I announced that game way too early before I had a solid idea of what that game should be. And I only really announced it when I did was because a bunch of other fan games like got announced. Like a bunch of people I knew in the community were announcing stuff like Wario and Jonachrome and stuff like that. And at the time, I was going into my senior year of high school, and there was a lot of like I just felt there was probably too much pressure to deliver on something that I knew people would be happy with. And so I again was probably way too like angsty teen about it, but I decided to shelve the project. And yeah, so that's really it. Like, and I won't like. Obviously, the question isn't about this, but the reason it got cancelled the second time, which was a couple of years ago, I tried to make it again, but I never announced this. I stopped working on that because A, the design wasn't fun, and B, the code got too messy, and I tried to clean it up, and then it's like a house of cards. Everything ended up falling on top of me, so I just stopped working on it.
Yeah, that's understandable, but hey, I'm glad that you have rebuilt from the ashes and you're going at it again. So
yeah, 7 years is probably a bit too much of like a wait time to justify it, but I think this is going to be so much better for having taken that break and like had the time to like learn, because obviously I've gone through university. I'm like an adult now, and I have so much more experience working on games and like design and code and things like that, now that I've taken the time to go and learn all that stuff. And this is going to be so much better of an experience than it would have ever been if it had come out in 2016.
All right, our next one is from Abid. What is your favorite SpongeBob character? He says that his is Patrick and Plankton.
I like Mr. Krabs. I think Mr. Krabs is probably my favorite, if not Squidward, because he's apathetic like me.
Okay, that's understandable. And our last one on our community tab post is from Marin Alliger. I think that's how it's pronounced. Why does Fanath and the Krusty Krab have no mini-map? It was hard to know where was what camp.
So it doesn't have one because I didn't know how to put one in. That was, that was the first time I'd ever opened Unreal Engine 4, was to make that game. And I didn't realize how to... I didn't know how to, lay things out, according to an image and things like that. So, basically, the way that minimap is laid out is it's just a big grid, and some of the grid squares have buttons in it, and some of them do not. And I didn't know how to put an image behind that. But, obviously, I figured out how to do that in Chum Bucket.
All right, that does it for our community tab post questions. So we're going to go ahead and move on to Twitter. So our first one on Twitter is from Piggy and Squiddy. Where did Plankton get the monies to make his Chum Bucket a 711-story building?
I just want to say I love that person's username. That's fantastic. What was it? Piggy and
Piggy and Squiddy.
Piggy and Squiddy. That's fantastic. To answer your question, Piggy and Squiddy, you know what? Where does he get the money for any of his things, right? Wasn't there an episode where he literally replaced SpongeBob and Patrick with robots or something? Where does he get the money for any of this?
I vaguely remember that episode, and I can't remember when I saw that. But I know that I think Dave Microwave. I don't know if you've seen his games, but Dave Microwave based that on, I guess, one of his games is called 6 a.m. at the Chum Bucket, and there's SpongeBob and Patrick robots in that game. At least I think there's a SpongeBob robot. I can't remember if there's a Patrick robot or not in there. I think that's what that's based off of. But yeah, I vaguely remember that episode. It's been a long time, but
yeah. So it's realistically, if we're gonna take the idea, the concept of the economy in Bikini Bottom and put it in the real world. If Plankton is really struggling for to make his business work, and he needs the secret formula in order to take his business off the ground, because currently he's hemorrhaging money because he's got that place open 7 days a week and he's got no customers. Where does he get the money to do anything that he does in that show? Remember when he brainwashed the entire town?
Money laundering. That's what I think.
Money laundering. That's it.
That's gotta be what it is, man. Because there's no way he gets that money legitimately. He's got to have like some kind of dark money scheme going on in the background. Because nobody goes to the Chum Bucket. Nobody wants to eat his food, but he somehow just has all this money. He's got to be money laundering, man, or selling drugs.
Absolutely.
Going full Breaking Bad. That's got to be what's going on. But
that's fantastic.
But it's Nickelodeon, so they're obviously not going to go that far.
No. But well, I mean, it's happening. It's just we don't get to see it in the show.
Yeah, they can make like a mature SpongeBob episode saying, "Here's what's really going on behind the scenes. This is not for your children. Get them away from the TV now." All right, this next one is from Grayson the Kid. He's got 3 questions. Was there any scrapped content or characters during the making of your 2 games? And you said that there was pretty much none, right?
Pretty much none, yeah.
All right, and then his next one was for Five Nights at the Chum Bucket. Was Karen the green electric thing? And if so, was there an explanation on how she became that way instead of how she looked in the show?
Yes and no. So yes, Karen is the green, like, electric thing. And the explanation for why that is, like, the actual explanation is that I was too lazy to make a new model for her. And so I just reused Sandy's and gave her, like, a green electricity texture. And the actual, like, explanation in lore is that she's supposed to be a virus. So, like, she has the same mechanic as the Red Man does in One Night at Flumpty's 1, where whatever camera she's in is just static and you can't see anything. And that's how you can tell where she is. But when she enters the office, there's not really an explanation for why she's, like, electricity. Maybe she... Look, if I'm gonna make up lore on the spot, maybe she, like, infects the overdrive button and electrocutes you to death or something.
And Grayson's last question is, any ideas for non-Fnaf games?
Yes. I guess I'll talk about it. Before I was working on this, I was about halfway through the, like, initial design and, like, development stages for an RPG that I've kind of been working on and off since university. So it's kind of, best way to explain it is it's like it's almost like if it's kind of like if Undertale was more of, like, an actual RPG as opposed to kind of what it is, where it's more of, like, a story-driven experience, right? So there's yeah, I haven't really thought it all the way out yet, but yeah, kind of like, you know, there's lots of monsters and you can, like, strike up conversations with them and they can teach you different skills, and then when you, like, get into fights, you can use those skills to just do stuff.
Okay, let us move on. All right, our next question is from Ramanov, the very first guy I interviewed for this season. So, what made you return for one final fan game? Was it just random, or was it because of something like Security Breach?
Yeah, a bit of Security Breach. Little bit of Security Breach, little bit of just kind of wanting to do it, little bit of being a bit burnt out with what I was doing, and a little bit of, man, I really don't want the last thing that I, like, the most popular thing that I put on the internet to be Chum Bucket, because, you know, it's in my opinion has aged not amazingly. It's just a bit it's a bit rough. Rough is the nicest way I can put it.
Gotcha. I also just got notified that you tweeted and said you were chatting with me. Is that on your computer screen? Is that a very subtle little tease for your new game? Is that
whoops. Oh well, it's on the internet now.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was on purpose or not.
Yeah, it was.
Oh man, so well, that's a very creative way to kind of tease what the game might look like. So
I thought it wouldn't be subtle enough if I put it on Game Jolt.
Yeah, you went with the subtlest of subtlety with that. I don't think anybody would even put that together unless
no one's even gonna notice. Look, if it ends up on Fanath Fan Game News, I'll consider it a win.
Well, then everybody will know that this podcast exists if you put on that, guys. Like the first sighting of the new SpongeBob Games Office was on a random episode of podcasts from a guy named TheNextGenius. So anyway, but it looks really cool just from what I'm seeing there. So that makes me even more excited. All right, our next one is from Nephrite. I think that's how I pronounced it, or that's how it's pronounced. This first one is, why exactly do you model or did you model the characters like you did?
I think he means designed, because I didn't do anything special when I was modeling them. Like, I just made them. But the way I designed them in the first game, I just kind of intended that to be a quick learning experience, and it was more of a learning experience for Unreal Engine rather than modeling and things like that. And so they're designed very simply, and they're very like flat colors with some shading and very shiny. Just because they're basically, I imported the texture into Photoshop and then bucket filled all of it yellow or something like that. With Chum Bucket, I obviously wanted them to be a bit grittier looking, so instead of just making them like simplified robot versions of the characters in the show, I wanted to put a little bit more thought into the design. So Squidward, I made this like lanky spider looking thing, and one oversight, it was genuinely not on purpose, was that he doesn't have a nose, which has been pointed out several times. It's literally like listed as a mistake on the wiki. And SpongeBob, obviously, I based it on the movie because I thought having him be like buff would be funny. Patrick is based on the meme where it's SpongeBob and Patrick, but they're cavemen. So that's why he's got like the big tusky teeth. Like he's supposed to look kind of like a saber-toothed cat or something like that. But obviously not really. Like he's supposed to look like a caveman. Sandy looks the way she does because the intent there is that she's not actually a new creation, right? So like SpongeBob, Squidward, Patrick, Mr. Krabs, they're all like new creations of the... I don't even remember what I named the character, but the cowboy man with the bad accent. Yeah, they're all like new robots that have been built by him for the express purpose of being in that location. Sandy is the same robot from Krusty Krab, but without her suit, and she's been like melted because that place burned down. Was there any others? I feel like there was 7 characters in that game. Yeah, okay, so... Oh, and then there's the Phantoms, which are just... I took the models from the first game, deleted parts of them so that they looked like they'd been destroyed, and then took them into Substance and made them look like they'd been burnt. And then obviously Karen is just Sandy, but with a green texture.
Ah, they're very interesting. The part with you you reusing the models and putting like removing parts of them, that's interesting. I didn't know that. So
they're a bit hard to see in the game because they don't really show up very often. I believe their mechanic is just that sometimes when you put the camera down, they'll be in your office and you just need to like look back at the camera or something like that to make them go away. It's really not super clear, but they also have a bug where sometimes they'll jump scare you and they'll be invisible. So it's not actually like that unexpected that people don't know what they look like.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. And then, all right, his next one is the next band game still going to be set in Rock Bottom, or is that something that you can reveal?
Yes, it is.
Oh, very nice. Cool. All right, and his last question is, how much of the original game's content before it was canceled is going to make a comeback in the new one?
In terms of ideas, a fair few. In terms of actual, like, models and code and stuff, well, code is obviously not possible because I'm using a different engine. And in terms of models and stuff, I don't have access to any of that stuff anymore. It's all gone. And I probably wouldn't reuse them even if I had access to them anyway. Like, as much as I know people like the old Hammerhead model and stuff like that, I wanted to redo all of that stuff because obviously I've learned a lot. It's almost been a decade. So yeah, there's not going to be any reused assets from that, but yeah, I've mentioned before there's a couple of ideas that I'm going to reuse because I like them.
All right, the next one is from Just Delta. What made you come back? Just in general, besides, I know you said there was kind of security breach that gave you the idea for the new game, but what made you want to come back in general?
Basically just, I think I've answered this, but like, actually, I think that the answer for why I was originally going to remake it, so the attempt a couple of years ago. I believe I just see Just Delta's review and was like, man, that's really cool that people are still talking about my fan game. I might actually come back and like try and do something else with it. Yeah. So in a small way, Just Delta did actually partially inspire the comeback. So you can thank them.
All right, gotcha. I will thank them. All right, and then the last one on Twitter is from Cairo. Do you like dogs or cats?
I like both, but I am a cat person.
Yeah, same here. I love both, but I think cats have a slight edge. I think only because they are a little easier to keep track of and take care of. That's the only reason. Because I mean, dogs are a little higher maintenance, and people might be into that. They like walking dogs every day, and and I love dogs. My girlfriend's got a big fluffy dog, and I love them to death. But I think cats are slightly. They have a slight edge. If I had to choose, I would say a cat. But
if I had to pick, I would pick a cat. But I think ideally, eventually, I'd like to have a cat and a dog. Like I like both, and I've grown up with both, right? So like my parents always had, we've had a lot of border collies actually, because there was like a portion where I lived on a farm for a while, so we had border collies as like sheepdogs, and they're like I love them, they're so cool. But yeah, I've had cats all my life as well, and I think personally I would prefer a cat even if they are completely apathetic towards me, just because they're yeah, like you said, they're easier to keep track of, and I feel like if I was given the option to like sit down on the couch and like cuddle up with a cat or a dog, I feel like I would prefer the cat because the dog might smell.
yeah, that's a good point. You gotta wash the dogs too, and usually
Yeah.
So. But yeah, again, I don't want to start a cat versus dogs debate. I love
They're both good.
Yeah,
they're both good.
They're both amazing in their own right. So
yeah, and then we're gonna get dog people in the comments being like, "What do you mean cats are evil? A cat killed my grandmother."
The cat scratched my face. And it's like, well, you probably provoked it. Usually, cats don't scratch you for no reason.
Yeah, well, that's always the meme, right? It's like cat people are like, I like dogs, but I prefer cats. And then dog people are like, a cat destroyed my ancestors.
Cats are going to take over the world one day, man. We got to be prepared for it.
Exactly.
All right, now we're moving on to our last questions from Discord. This next one is from your favorite username, Piggy and Squiddy. How the hell does SpongeBob look like Hulk Hogan?
I wouldn't even say he looks like Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan's like that kind of skinny old man strong, as opposed to like looking like a Greek statue. But yeah, no, I think in terms of design, I've explained this. Like I just based him off the movie. But also I thought it would be funny if he was big.
And he's definitely big. You definitely achieved that.
He went from the smallest character in the first game to the biggest.
Yeah, he glowed up, to say the least. All right, this next one is from Damien, a.k.a. Genius Knight creator, in my Discord server. He made a game called The Genius Knight, so that's why it's a fan game of me, so that's why he calls himself a Genius Knight creator. Where did the idea behind Fanath Krab came from? I think we know that that's Yummy Mash.
Yummy Mash, yep.
All right, the next one's from Random. Did you ever expect your games to make it to the level of classics in the FNAF fandom?
Absolutely not. I didn't even think, like, at the time that there would be considered such a thing as classic fan games. Like, because at the time, there was no fan games to, like, base things off. There was, like, a couple that existed, but, like, you don't really think of things as going to be, like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think anyone really sits down and makes something and goes, "This is going to be a classic one day." But like, it is super cool that people still, appreciate my games just by virtue of the fact that they were like one of the first ones to come out, and I've said a couple of times, I have very different opinions of them because I'm very critical of my work, but it makes me really happy whenever I see comments of people being excited for the new game or, talking about how much they like the old ones. I think in the span of the last couple of months, I've done a couple of searches on Twitter just like for Five Nights at the Chum Bucket, just to see if anyone's making any talking about like the teasers and stuff like that. And there's this one person, I don't remember their username, but they keep I think in the past month they've sent about 4 or 5 tweets to this one YouTuber asking them to play Chum Bucket. And it's just it's just funny to me. It's just super cool that people are passionate about it.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I want to get back to Chum Bucket. I really enjoyed playing the first couple nights, and I'm looking forward to diving back into it. It's just something about it. It's very nerve-wracking because of, I guess, just the visuals and just the way the gameplay is. I really enjoyed it. It was a breath of fresh air for me because, again, I always like seeing fan games change up things, and the way that the game plays, the way that you can look around, it's different. I like the way that it's different, and so I'm interested to dive back into it. And despite the bugs and everything that you say are in there, I didn't run into anything in particular when I first played it. So, all right, our next one is from Weed Chips. Will this new game be called Five Nights at Rock Bottom like originally planned?
I don't believe so. I'm still kind of up in the air on what to call it, but I feel like Five Nights at Rock Bottom. I'm not actually sure. I named the second one Five Nights at the Chum Bucket because I felt like people would think it was weird if I called it Five Nights at the Krusty Krab 2.
Yeah.
Because it didn't take place at the Krusty Krab. And I think in the initial release of that game, I just called it Five Nights at the Chum Bucket, but I think I may have gotten 1 or 2 comments being like, I'm confused as to what the story is. And so that's why there's that subtitle in the head and in the title that says sequel to the Five Nights at the Krusty Krab. So people would know to go and play that first if they wanted to understand what was going on. But I don't know if I would do that now that there's 3 games. I think that I would I think I probably would have called them, Five Nights at the Krusty Krab 1 and 2 if I'd known that I was going to make a third one.
Gotcha. Okay. Are you gonna, on the menu screen, are you gonna put a subtitle on this new one saying sequel to Five Nights at the Chum Bucket? Are you gonna do that same thing?
I don't think I have to. I think people are aware now.
Gotcha. All right, and then Weed Chip's second question was, looking back, what do you think of Five Nights at the Krusty Krab and Chum Bucket?
Five Nights at the Krusty Krab, I don't like that game. I think that game is really hard to it's really hard for me to watch a Let's Play of that now. Just because it's really rough. Again, going back to the original Let's Plays that I watched of that, or people making videos on it, if you looked left and right, the camera would just snap to the left and right doors, making it basically impossible to play the game because you couldn't flash the light at Squidward. And there's things like Sandy doesn't work properly, and the animatronics just sometimes don't behave correctly, and I think that maybe the flickering lights is a bit too much, and I probably wouldn't do that now anyway because of epilepsy concerns and things like that. But it's just stuff that didn't occur to me because I was a kid, and that kind of stuff just doesn't occur to you when you're just making something for the fun of it and you don't expect anyone to even play it, right? So I'm glad I did it, but I don't like that game anymore. I think that I could have done way better if I'd actually put a little more time into it. And I think that I definitely can do way better, right? And I think that's really the driving force behind why I would want to remake it, because I like that it exists, but I don't like the state that it's in, right? And then Chum Bucket to a lesser extent. I think that there's problems with it that I don't really like, but I am more proud of that game because I've put that on resumes and portfolio pieces and stuff like that, and it's as work that I did several years ago, and it's actually opened up a fair few opportunities for me, just getting into my university of choice, just because I had a portfolio that was full of work and things like that. So while I'm not particularly happy with the game in the sense that I feel like I still could do better. I'm really like proud of it just for the fact that it exists in the state that it is, right?
All right, our next one is from Doc Holiday. That is Cubby in my Discord server. If you could go back and update Krusty Krab or Chum Bucket, which game would you update and why? Like, if you could go back and update it, like, right now, which one would you choose?
If I could only do one, I would do Krusty Krab. But if I could do both, I would do both. And I think... yeah, sorry, the question was why as well. Probably just, like, the same reasons I just mentioned. I think Krusty Krab is... It's got some interesting ideas in it, but I find that game is on the whole just not very playable. And the other thing is, I think a lot of people have actually had trouble making that game even run. Like, I know when Markiplier played Chum Bucket, he mentioned that he tried to play Krusty Krab but couldn't get it to work. And I think that making that game again in Unity and now knowing what I would be able to do and how to do it, I would be able to make it better and also more accessible so that more people would be able to actually experience it, right? Because I think Chum Bucket, while it has some of the same problems, it's to a far lesser extent. I think because it's just using a newer version of Unreal. So I think if I had the choice to go back and remake them, because obviously I can't update them because I don't have the files, Krusty Krab would be the one I would do. But, you know, I would like to do Chum Bucket as well if I had the time.
Gotcha. Okay. And then his second question was, how did you learn Unreal Engine 4?
By making buckets at the Krusty Krab.
Really?
That was the first thing I ever did in that engine. So I'd been using, like, I've been making games, like, not to any capacity that is good, since I was like 9. So I started out in Game Maker 7, I believe, which was the newest one at the time, and eventually moved on to UDK, which was Unreal Engine 3's like public package that they just let people like use for free, basically, which was super unheard of at the time. Like, Unity at the time was like terrible, not worth using, and it was the first time a professionally grade 3D engine was like available to the public. And so I played around with that for about 5 years. And in 2014, I think, I made a arena shooter with my friend from high school, which I released with that. And then in the summer holidays, which was the winter holidays for anyone in the Northern Hemisphere, I decided that I wanted to try out Unreal Engine 4, and so I wanted to make a Fnaf fan game to learn how to do that. So I made Five Nights at the Krusty Krab basically as a learning experience, and also, like, you know, just watching tutorials and being like, I'm not sure how to do this, I'm gonna go look it up, right? And I think that that's, in my opinion, the best way to learn game design is like, or game development, is just like figure out what you want to do, or watch some tutorials to get a hang of the software. And then when you come across something that you don't know how to do, like, say you're watching a tutorial that's like how to make a scrolling shooter, like a bullet hell game, and you want to add missiles. So you would like look up, oh, how do I, you know, spawn an object? How do I make an object move to the center of the screen? How do I make an object destroy all enemies on screen, or something like that? And that's basically the process that I took with Five Nights at the Krusty Krab, because obviously there was no tutorials, there was no anything. I was the first person to make a FNAF fan game not in ClickTeam, as far as I'm aware. So, yeah.
Really, that was so. Krusty Krab was the first Unreal Engine fan game. I did not know that.
As far as I'm aware, it is, right, or at least it's the first one that's like actually the same gameplay style. Because I believe I watched a video from someone recently that was like, the first FNAF fan game was actually like a weird asset flip shooter where you just shot like Freddy, and it actually predates Treasure Island. But the first FNAF game that's like actually in the fan game that's actually in like the sit and survive genre in UE4, I believe, was Krusty Krab, as far as I'm aware. Someone might correct me in the comments, but I'm not sure.
But hey, if excuse me, Yawning, if that's true, then you set a precedent or
Yeah.
precedent. Can't pronounce words correctly, but yeah, that's if you were the first one, then many games were to follow to be in that style. So
I am to blame for security breach.
no, I mean I think that just I don't even know what happened with Security Breach, man. That game is so polarizing, and
Yeah, I think from what I've seen of it, like, what do I mean by that? I've seen the whole game, right? And I think there's definitely sections of it that feel polished, but it feels like they were going to do something like Sister Location, where it was a much smaller location, and you had kind of like tightly compacted like mini games of content, right? But then they spread it out, and so they had this like not very well designed, not very well put together kind of like Alien Isolation Amnesia kind of like traversal system, right? Where you're like trying to avoid enemies while you're getting from point A to point B, and then when you get to point B, there's like something that's actually well like designed and is pretty fun to do. Like just as an example, like okay, it's a bad example because I don't think that this is particularly well designed, but like the daycare section is like a compact piece of content. But between the daycare and like the next thing you would do, it just kind of feels like it was a bit rushed.
Right. Yeah, I get what you mean, and Security Breach. Like, I'm waiting for the patch because they're having a big patch. I'm waiting for that.
Yeah.
And because I stopped at the daycare section, I never got past it because I wasn't having all that much fun. But I've been told that the game gets a lot better after the daycare section. So I am I'm willing to, if I can get past the daycare section, hopefully we'll get to more of the fun stuff. But I'm hoping that they fix up a lot of the problems in the patch, that they make it more optimized and less buggy, and so fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think the optimization and like the bug fixes would be good, but there's some parts of it that just don't feel like they were finished. But then there's other parts of it that do feel like they were finished. Like that chase scene with I don't know, spoilers, but I guess the chase scene with the Music Man is really, really cool. And there's some stuff that's like really well polished and like fun, but a lot of it falls flat just because it doesn't feel like they had enough time. That's my 2 cents, at least. It might actually be a completely different scenario. Sorry, I'm blabbing on a bit.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, I agree. I mean, but really, who knows? I don't know if we'll ever know, but, always fun to speculate.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, next one is from Mr. Waffles. Why did you choose SpongeBob out of all things to make a game based on? We know that's Yummy Mash. And then his other question was, what inspired the 3 things functional at once mechanic from Chum Bucket? He thinks that is one of the best ones out there in fan games.
Oh, yeah. That I don't believe is inspired by anything. I think that was an idea I came up with specifically because I wanted some kind of limitation on what the player was doing, because I felt like while I was playing it that it was just a bit powerful, because especially since there's no power in that game, you could realistically just shut both the doors and just watch the cameras. But the doors do overheat, but they take like a minute and a half to get to that point where they become non-functional. And I added the 3 things only at once, or the 2 things only at once, because I just wanted a way to limit the player's like ability and make sure that they're thinking a bit more carefully about what they're trying to do. And then obviously that pairs well with the overdrive button, because that's how you get rid of Sandy when she's attacking the generator. And so I wanted something to do with that. And also it kind of works with the maximum overdrive meme, right? So
yeah. Huh. Yeah, is Sandy night 3? Because I have yet to get to her.
I couldn't tell you. I think she's like night 3, 4, something like that.
Yeah, so I can't wait to get all stressed out again when dealing with that, because, all right. Our next one is from Marshall. What inspired you to come back and make a new Fanath Krusty Krab / Chum Bucket game all these years later? And we know that you said that was Security Breach and stuff. Were there any other attempts that you made to make a sequel in private? I think you said that was 2 years ago. You tried to make it again. Were there any other occasions besides that?
Not Not really. I did go through 3 iterations of the game before I originally cancelled it. But I think that's pretty public knowledge at this point. So there was the original version, which was you kind of sat at like a big, for lack of a better term, like Homer Simpson at the nuclear power plant desk, and it was just Hammerhead. And then I made some changes where I changed to the map and added some more characters, and that just really wasn't doing it for me. And then I played Soma by Frictional Games, and I really liked the art style of that. And I was like, maybe I should focus a little bit more on the undersea elements of the game. And so added I redid basically everything at that point. I kind of scrapped what I had because I wasn't super happy with it, and started trying to do something a bit different, but that kind of fell flat on its face, especially since I posted some teasers from that, and people didn't seem to like the new design of Hammerhead, and was a little bit discouraged by that. But you know, it's whatever. And yeah, that was basically it. So apart from that, there was the attempt 2 years ago, which got to a somewhat playable state, but then just kind of fell over. And then I started it about a month ago, and it's going really, really great. And I'm getting to a point where I can start like getting people to play it, like in private, obviously.
All right, cool. All right, this next one is from Yorts. Where can I get some of what SpongeBob's doing, like the steroids? In all seriousness, will you ever do anything with the Big Daddy-inspired Hammerhead model? I thought it just looked really cool and would probably look really good as just a slumped prop somewhere in the new game. If you don't use it, if you don't lose it, of course.
I have lost it, unfortunately, but yeah, that's a cool idea. Actually, I might for some like diving suit props or something like that, I might base them on that. So that would be kind of cool.
All right, yeah, we'll have to see what you do with that. All right, next one is from Slumbum, aka Michael. What is your favorite SpongeBob meme?
Oh, I really like the one with Mr. Krabs where he's like at the table and the background is like all like rotate blurred, and he's like, what's going on? I find it it's really hard to explain. But I think people will know what I'm talking about. It's like there's like a crowd that's like encroaching on him, and like the background's all blurry and stuff. It's really funny. But yeah, it's difficult to describe, but I will post it on Twitter if people are interested.
Yeah, you should. I'd be interested to see which meme. I don't think I've seen that one. I'd say my favorite one's probably I don't remember what character it is, but it's when he goes, "Whoa!" I don't remember what that's from. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
I'm gonna look it up. I'm not certain, but yeah, I've looked it up, but it's not coming up. But this is the one I was talking about because it came up as like the first result.
Oh yeah, that one. I have seen that. Okay,
It's so good.
That's
I love
funny.
that one.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. All right, this next one's from Nami1. Which FNAF fan game would you think took the longest to make? I don't know if he's talking about yours specifically or any of the other ones. I guess we could say like which took longer to make, Krusty Krab or Chum Bucket.
Chum Bucket. Krusty Krab was done in about a month. And Chum Bucket, because I did a lot more like detailed characters and things like that. Probably, yeah, it just took a long time. So that probably took maybe 2 or 3 months total, maybe. I'm not sure. Whereas Krusty Krab was about 28 days or something like that. And look, if we're just gonna, just for fun, if we could say the other like fan game made by someone else that probably took the longest, I'm gonna go with Joy of Creation, just because that existed for about 5 or 6 years before it was done.
Yeah, I remember the very first version of that came out. It was like that version where you
Yeah,
like, looked
I
around.
remember back when it was just a Slender clone, and now it's like a full thing, which is cool. And now it's in the Fanverse initiative, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And the funny thing about the Slender clone thing is that there's a level it was a Joy Creation Reborn. Like there was a whole level based around like Slender inspiration. It was the Chica level where you ran around in a forest collecting drawings and Chica was running after you. I think that was probably a reference to that.
Yeah, I don't quite remember Reborn. I believe I've seen a full playthrough of Story Mode though.
Gosh, that's such a good game. That is a really, really good game. And
I'm very partial to the fan games that are in the same kind of like sit and survive genre as like the original FNAF games, and so like the levels of joy of creation that are that kind of style, like the attic, I think is one of them. They're my favorite. They're really, really cool.
Yeah, and the attic is like, man, that's a tough level, but
yeah,
but it's good. It's really good. Once you beat it, it's so satisfying.
Oh yeah.
All right, our next one is from Cuckoo Kong. What was your least favorite animatronic to program, and what was your favorite animatronic to program? I think you said Squidward was your favorite. What was your least favorite?
I don't know. I don't think I had any trouble with any of them really. Like, there's obviously some problems with them, but I don't think at the time I had any particular difficulty making any of them. Probably Sandy, just because the way she functions is very unique. And I know in terms of the new game, the most fun I have had programming them is Hammerhead, and the least fun I have had programming them is, yeah, probably Sandy as well. So I guess spoilers, she's in the game.
I think a lot of people probably expected Sandy would be in the game, but there you go. There's a confirmation.
Every character. Oh, well, no, every character besides Karen at the moment is returning.
Cool. All right. Well, I need to finish Chum Bucket, so I'm familiar with, again, refreshed with all the characters. So, all right. And last but not least, our final question is from Mario Fan 0507. Do you like Five Nights at the Krusty Krab more, or do you like Five Nights at the Chum Bucket more?
Absolutely, Five Nights at the Chum Bucket more. I feel Krusty Krab is it's a product of, it was a learning experience, and Chum Bucket was, I actually wanted to make something really cool. So yeah, I'm way happier with that game, and I like it a lot more.
Yeah, I didn't mind the voice acting. I think that the voice acting's fine, and for its time at least. And so I think it's fine. I think the southern accent of the phone guy is entertaining, and
it's so bad. It's so bad. I will never ever have attempt to hold an accent for that long, just straight ever again, because it's just not possible.
I mean, it's funny because me being from the South, I don't know how Southern I sound, but I just don't sound Southern to myself. Sometimes certain words that I'll say, you can hear my Southern very clearly, and then there's other times I'll just be talking, and I feel like I don't even know what I sound like. I just sound just very central, just right down the middle American. But I mean, there's some words I'll say, again, like if I say the word Southern, you can kind of hear the Southern drawl there. But
yeah.
But I've always wondered how Southern I sound to people. I bet it's a lot more Southern sounding to people that live in the North, for example. But
yeah, I would say so. As I guess someone who's not from the States and hasn't really spent a whole lot of time over there, the main difference that I can observe is people from New York sound different to people from everywhere else in the States, and I guess people from the South sometimes have a little bit of a Southern accent, but it's really not that crazy apparent. But I guess I have what is probably a very different accent sounding.
Yeah, Australians have a very distinct accent, as do British and Russian and China. It's everybody has a different kind of accent, but that's what I love about it. I love British accents. I love Australian accents. I just find it so fascinating how you can easily tell where somebody is from just from how they sound. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Since it's the last question, I'll give you a crikey, mate, to send you off. God, I'm so cringe.
And let's say my Southern coming out and make some country fried gravy and some collard greens with some sweet tea. Oh gosh, yeah, it's cringy to me as well. So
better than my Southern accent. we can all see how well that turned out.
Yeah. So anyway. Okay, well, that'll do it for all the questions. That's all of them. I think we went through every single one. Appreciate everybody taking part in this episode. Again, if you want to take part in future episodes, just keep an eye out for my posts regarding future upcoming guests. Next week, we're going to be interviewing Mallrats. He's been on the show before. He was in season 2 with Ivan G, but he has not gotten his own particular episode. So we're going to be interviewing him next week. But thank you, Dakota, a.k.a. Syncaroonie. Thank you for being on here, man. This was a very pleasant conversation. And I am very excited for your new game. I think we all are. So I'll be looking forward to that. And I'll be playing more Chum Bucket in the very near future. And if you'd like to check out his games, you can find a link to his Twitter and to Game Jolt in the description. Link to Chum Bucket and Krusty Krab. And whenever there is a page for your new game, I will update this description and put that in there. But thanks for being on, man. This was a great conversation.
No worries. I had so much fun. This was great. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. And thank you for being on, man. This was an honor. And so, yeah, thank you all for listening. And I'll catch y'all in the next one. Stay tuned for next week for some Mallrat conversation. So I'll catch you guys then. Thanks for listening. Everybody have a good morning, afternoon, or evening. Catch y'all on the next one. Adios.
Bye.